Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to the desktop for another retro RPG. And this week I would like to present this. The Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition Player's Handbook Rules Supplement, The Complete Book of Humanoids. Now, I've covered a couple of the complete books before. I believe I've covered the Complete Book of Fighters and the Complete Book of Elves, which were very much core to Dungeons & Dragons, fighters obviously making up the front line of any party, and elves being a massively popular race for playing in D&D. But this was kind of unique at the time, because this was the first time you could really start to play vastly non-human species. I believe Dark Sun had come out slightly before this, because this came out in 1993, and it had the Thri-kreen in it in its first edition of Dark Sun. So they'd opened the door to playing vastly different races. But mainly, you were just sticking to human-like creatures. So your halflings, your elves, your dwarves, who are different races, but basically humans. But this one allowed you to play completely different things. The other thing I'd like to mention about this book is it's by Bill Slavicsek. Now, he's done a lot of work that I've featured on this. He was involved in the Ghostbusters RPG, Star Wars, he was the product line manager for. He is a vastly influential RPG writer from the 80s and 90s. I'm not really sure what he's done more recently, but I don't tend to buy a lot of more modern stuff. But the thing I discovered about him today is that he's actually younger than me. When he took over as the product line manager, he was actually only in his mid-20s. The lucky, incredibly talented man that he is. How dare he have more skill than his little finger than I could possibly summon together. But anyway, let's flip over this to the back cover. So, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Complete Book of Humanoids. Look out, adventurers, they're here. This handbook describes in detail over 20 humanoid races that can be run as player characters, from mischievous pixies to stubborn minotaurs, from the lizard-like saurial to the savage half-ogres, and many more in between. In addition to new character types, this handbook includes new proficiencies, humanoid kits, unusual equipment, and a few new surprises that will open worlds of adventure within any ongoing campaign. Moreover, move over, common adventurers. The Complete Book of Humanoids is here. And it came out in 1993, copyright TSR. And it's got this lovely cover, as the complete books did, which feels almost like a plasticky leather. It has a nice leathery effect to it, but it definitely feels like plastic, with the gold embossed lettering on it. These books looked fantastic. No fancy art on the cover, just a plain design, but they looked luscious and expensive. And flipping open, we see that the layout is a standard TSR. It's not incredibly pretty, but it's quite nice. It's standard and it's easy to read. No overly fancy backgrounds or borders. So, start off with a short introductory story. What are humanoids? Humanoids in campaigns. And we go through creating the characters, generating ability scores, adding them to a campaign. Nice color plate showing a lion man. I'm trying to remember what they're called, but I'm sure we'll come to them in a bit. Going through, explaining things, because this really did try to introduce balance. Because although some of the races are much more powerful than humans, for example, some have vastly higher strength, they did try to balance them with different disadvantages. And of course, they are non-human, so they will suffer from racism. And the book does detail all that. So we start off with the aarakocra. So birdmen. And we go through, they've got languages, aarakocra and giant eagle in common. We've got the alaghi, who look to be abominable snowmen type. And we've got a bit of detail about them. We've got standard beastmen. We've got bugbears, so if you want to play a bugbear, you can play one. Bullywugs. Centaurs. Fremlins. We've got giantkin firbolgs, so you can play giants. Giantkin voadkyn with their big bulgy heads. Gnolls, flind gnolls. Goblins, you can play them. Hobgoblins. Kobolds. We've got lizard men. Minotaurs. Mongrelman. I'm trying to find the details about these. These always struck me as being one of the more interesting ones because they are massively different. Special disadvantages. No matter what charisma score a mongrelman has amongst his own kind, when first meeting strangers of a different race, his charisma is treated as 1. Half-ogres. Ogre mages, who have loads of magical abilities. Ogre mage develop special abilities as they gain hit dice. They can assume gaseous form once per day, fly for 12 turns, become invisible at will, cast sleep once per day, and so on and so forth, right up to polymorph to a human so they can take disguises. Special advantages. They take damage as large creatures. Got half-orcs. Because although half-orcs are standard in your D&D rules these days, they weren't standard back at this point. You just had them basically human races. Got pixies. You can be a satyr. A saurial, which I believe is pretty much from one of the worlds, perhaps Greyhawk, I don't remember which it is, but there were a race of sort of elder lizard men in one of the series of books. So they're not standard to all worlds. Swanmays. Got wemic, which are the half-lion men. And then we're on to humanoid kits. So we've got warrior kits, where they can be a tribal defender, a pit fighter, a mine rowdy, a saurial paladin, which is something I do kind of like. I really did want to play one of those, but I never played in the game world where they were standard. Sellswords. And I do have to compliment the colour plates. There is some absolutely gorgeous artwork here. Wilderness Protector, Wizard's Kits. You can be a hedge wizard or a humanoid scholar. An outlaw mage. We're on to the priest kits. So you can be a shaman or a witch doctor. A war priest or an oracle. A wandering mystic. Rogue kits, which make you a scavenger, tramp, tunnel rat, shadow, humanoid bard. And then we're on to proficiency and specializations, so different skills that they can have, including begging and the like of that. Another lovely colour plate. And then we've got a section on role-playing. So this is the meat of it, because although all the rest gives you the stats you need, most of the meat of it is actually in playing these characters. So you've got your life as a humanoid, you've got tribal life, you've got social and racial disadvantages, and you've got humanoid traits. So that you can have different monstrous traits. Bestial appetites. They have the appetite of a large beast. They must consume twice as much food at every meal. Bestial speech. They have a speech pattern that includes bestial sounds, -2 to reaction checks. And lots of role-playing stuff. Campaign complications. So how having a humanoid in your party can affect the entire party. That they've been sentenced to death because they are seen just as a monster. Mysterious world. So these are questing out for the first time. So the world is very, very different to them. So they would have to play that. Whereas an elf coming into a human town will have a vague idea of how things work, because they've experienced human civilization for years. Beastman might not, or other humanoids. Arms and armor. So whether they can wear all the types of armor, what kind of equipment they might use. And we've got the scales of them. So you can see the saurials are around about humanoid size. But you've got aarakocra and other ones which are smaller, and you've got obviously the giants way up here, much more massive. And you've got tables, so the character kit summaries, the aging effects, so some of the creatures age very much younger than humans, some live longer, racial ability requirements, human and multi-class combinations, monstrous traits, reincarnation, so you can have people come back as the different races when they're reincarnated. And they've got character kit design sheet and special character sheets for the different humanoid warriors, humanoid wizards, priests, and rogues, along with the equipment pages. And then an advert for AD&D Monster Mythology, also from TSR. Now, this was a lovely book. It's full of ideas, and I know that I poured through it at length back in the 90s when I first picked it up, because it just gave me so many ideas for characters. I just had dozens of character sheets where I'd drawn up, and oh yeah, I want to play a saurial paladin, oh I want to play a mongrelman thief, I want to play this, that, and the next thing, because they were just so interesting and different. I know other players just looked at the stats. I know one player who played an ogre magi because they just got all these free spells and were just so much more powerful than a class. But the disadvantages balance them out if you're actually going to roleplay them. And as I said, this is a very, very good book. It expanded Dungeons & Dragons in a number of ways, which we still see with half-orcs and the like in the game to this day. Anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough about this. As always, thank you very, very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like me doing this kind of thing. But most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.